good show tonight. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Patriot Nation TV. I'm your host, Tim Davis, your new age patriot with a 1776 attitude. So, just one man, one opinion, like usual, trying to connect the dots. So, let me start off by just saying it's very clear what's going on in America. It's a hostile takeover of the United States by enemies, foreign and domestic. And how did we get here? How did we get here? Well, first, let me start off by saying this cancel culture is out of control. And I believe Generation X is our only hope. So I'm asking, will Generation X please stand up? We're the generation that fought for our rights to party. We cannot let these millennial Z's, Maoists, terrorize our culture anymore. They're terrorizing us using tools such as social media and universities and so on and so on. So with that being said, how do we get here? How do we get here? How do we get to this dreaded Orwellian nightmare of a police state? We are a police state. Everything's upside down, backwards. I mean, we could take this back away to the Wilson Doctrine, but that was just a blueprint of the layout. But I'm going to go back to where it actually began. It began with the baby boom generation. The baby boom generation I consider to be the worst generation for numerous reasons, and I'll break them down. The baby boom generation is the generation whose parents were the greatest generation. And Generation X, that's their grandparents. So how did we get here? Well, let's start off by discussing the baby booms, the baby boomers. To try to keep it short and simple, you got to look at the baby boom generation like this. 1/3 of the baby boom generation went off and fought in Vietnam. 1/3 of the baby boom generation got deferments and went to college. And the other third of that baby boom generation went to Mexico, Canada, like little cowards, like little babies who couldn't fight for anything. Just cowards. They just ran off. And if it wasn't for President Jimmy Carter, who pardoned that whole third of a generation and welcomed them back without being punished, or here where we are today. They came back. Now, if you look deep into the late 60s, early 70s, with this baby boom generation, they were actually the counterculture. That's what they would term the counterculture. They were the cultural revolutionaries. They were actually the real domestic terrorists, such as the Weather Underground, Bill Ayers, Bernardine Dorn, committed Brinks robberies. I was a kid when the Brinks robberies happened in my state of New York. Police bombings and stuff like that. And back then, when our Congress, when we actually had leaders, we actually had representatives who had common sense, they were trying to label them as domestic terrorists. And unfortunately, you had the ACLU, the civil liberties unions and stuff like that. They were actually still pro-American, even though they were like little liberal wackadoos. They fought for the right, saying you can't, they used the word sedition back then. And they fought it in courts and stuff, yada, 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 back and forth. And so they really weren't labeled domestic terrorists. They were labeled domestic terrorists, but they weren't charged with sedition. And the reason I'm saying sedition, because sedition is being used today against patriots. So look back at the baby boomers. I broke it down to thirds. And if you really think, what did the baby boomers really do? Other than giving like great music, totally awesome music, drugs, sex, rock and roll, good weed, whatever you wanted, whatever the case may be. Everything was cool, But what they actually did was, that's the first generation in American history that rebelled against their parents. They fought to take God out of society. They infiltrated great causes, such as the civil rights movement. They were part of assassinating the leaders, such as Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Edgar Evers, and so on and so on. Is that actually provable? Yeah, no. I mean, it is, but it's not, recorded history. But it just makes sense if you really pay attention to history and what really went on back in those days. And so it's just a bad. And now these baby boomers, who were the original cultural revolutionaries, they weren't Maoists, even though a lot of them, when they did go to Mexico, when they went to Canada, like cowards, a lot of them went to China too. And they were getting these Maoist indoctrination. And then when they came back, after they waged war on our police, they waged war on our institutions, our Constitution, our God, whether you're Christian Judeo values, whether you're a Muslim, a Hindu. They just said there's no existence of God. And when they tried fighting the government through their domestic terrorism, once they realized they got crushed and they couldn't overthrow the government with their nonsense, what did they do? What was their next step? They infiltrated our universities and our schools. Some went to prison. 30, 40 years later, a lot of these domestic terrorists got pardons, especially in my home state of New York. Now, and, Bernadette Dorn and a couple of these Weather Underground people got pardons. And now the law professors, or the professors in general, like NYU, Columbia, and so on and so on. So if you really dig deep into, if you can look past the great music, Woodstock, that's all cool. You watch the documentaries and it was great. Sure, it was a great time to party. Stuff like that. Can't knock them for it. But this baby boom generation, they're the grandparents of the Millennials. And you can see, well, at least I can see the similarities with this cancer culture that's out of control with the Millennials, the Maoist Millennials, and their grandparents. And, compared to my generation, Generation X, it's a totally different era. And I guess my generation, I guess, are the parents of Millennials and Zs. So, I guess we got to blame ourselves also, but we are the last hope. We are the last hope. And the reason I'm saying that is because we are the first generation that actually grew up without segregation. We grew up without Jim Crow. We grew up diverse. We were allowed to go to school with minorities and stuff like that. So we were the first generation to experience that type of America. And in that type of America, you're talking the mid-70s now, or early 70s, mid-70s, going into the 80s, Sure, we weren't perfect. Nah, we weren't perfect. But we weren't our parents. Or let me correct that. Majority of Generation X parents were the silent majority. Silent majority and early baby boomers, like the 46, 47, 48 birth of the baby boomers were like it's my generation, or the silent generation. My parents weren't baby boomers; they were part of the silent generation. They were the kids during World War II. But as I was getting back to, let me get back to my thought here. The baby boomers and their Maoist millennial grandchildren, they learned from their grandparents, because my generation is known as the latchkey generation. That's where both parents started working. So it was a latchkey generation. But they, and that was the beginning of dumbing down of America. And they really couldn't quite get us. They really couldn't because it was the beginning stages of it. That's when they took civics out and replaced it with social studies, stuff like that. And it was a work in progress. So they basically had about 3-4 decades of brainwashing kids and dumbing them down. As for my generation, I would have to say we're probably 50-50. We're not third and a third and a third like the baby boomers are 50-50. Because a lot of us that are, alive today, getting ready to run government, a lot of us had grandparents, obviously fought in World War II, parents that fought in Vietnam. So it's 50-50. They couldn't really dumb us down. And unfortunately, it brings us to this cancel culture of the millennials and Generation Z. They're not 50-50. It's probably more like 70-30. So this ain't a dig at you, all the millennials, because, there's a lot of good patriotic millennials. These are the millennials that actually served in the military, owned their own businesses. My nieces are millennials and stuff like that. I mean, they work hard. Which some went to school, some didn't. But they're outnumbered. And they're outnumbered by the entitlement, the entitlement. They're partners of their generation. They're entitled. Everybody went to college, and if you don't go to college, you just can't succeed. You can't do this. You can't do that. It's an authoritarian type argument. It's a fallacy, because somehow in the process of all this happening, we lost focus on what's important to America and American people. What makes America thrive, what made us the best country in the world. What made us the best country in the world? Our manufacturing, our patriotism, our love for country, and so on and so on. So somewhere in the mix, it fell apart. And so now, get back to this baby boom. I mean, I was going to dedicate this to the cancel culture of the millennials, but I really can't blame. I mean, yes, I got to blame them because they're the future. They're going to be my future. I mean, another 20 years, I'm going to be 20, 25 years. I'm going to be a senior citizen. And it's scary what I'm seeing and what's going on. No respect for the elders. No natural love. Their logic, well, what they perceive to be logic, is backwards thinking. And it's just not a good situation what's going on. I mean, you see what's going on the news. I mean, we got clowns, we got buffoons as representatives. And so it goes back to the baby boomers. So everything that the baby boomers were fighting about amongst themselves, like I said, a third went to Vietnam, a third went to Mexico, Canada, China, and the other third went to college. And the issues that they were fighting back then, they're fighting today. They're actually in power now. They've been in power probably since the late 80s or in the early 90s until today. They've been controlling everything. And look at the laws that they're doing. Look at what they're passing. They're giving us this, I would say the Bolshevik revolutionaries, because that's what they really are. But they were cultural revolutionaries. That's how we label them in America. But they got their teachings from these radical Fabian type socialist Maoists, and they're perfecting it, and it's working. They learned a lot from Hitler, Joseph Goebbels, with the media. They took over the media. They're propagandizing everything. And, we all see what's going on. So let's move forward a little bit and see where it really all began. Like this police state. This police state that we have. I'm going to say it's 9/11. 9/11, I was 29, 30 years old. 9/11. When 9/11 happened, it was under the baby boom's watch. I mean, some say it was an inside job. Some say it wasn't. Yeah, it's up to you to decide. My opinion really doesn't matter because I do have my own opinions. But if you really think about what happened after 9/11, where this Orwellian government has taken shape, they weaponized words, they weaponized our military, they weaponized our police forces, our judges, all under the guise of security and safety. They used words such as suspicious behavior, domestic terrorists, and so on and so on. But before I get further into that, if you really, really, really look at that situation, like I said, I was 29, 30 after 9/11. The Patriot Act. And this is how clever they are. Whether it was George Bush, whether it was Al Gore or Bill Clinton, it really doesn't matter because they're all baby boomers. And they all, I believe they all collude. I think they're all one bird with the same feathers. And so during the Patriot Act, everybody, 9/11 happens. It was devastating. Everybody's like, oh, coming together. So they come up with one of the most tyrannical laws ever created, which was called the Patriot Act. It basically suspended our Bill of Rights, such as FISA courts and using FISA courts and stuff like that. And then we were using the Patriot Act for spying on foreign terrorists. That was the initial reasoning for the Patriot Act. But it did destroy a lot of our civil liberties under the guise of safety and security, and people fell for it, including myself. I got to admit, including myself. But as the years were moving forward around to like 2007, 2008, me personally, one man, one opinion, I realized that it was a con job. And it wasn't good enough because after 9/11 happened, we waged a war on terror. Now, this is where I'm getting to the point of weaponizing words. The war on terror. So we had terrorists, foreign terrorists. So we can spy on certain terrorists, such as, Muslims, stuff like that. We spied on them. Today, it's racist to say we're spying on Muslims, Muslim nationalists and stuff like that. I'm not saying all Muslims are bad because they're not. And then as we were moving forward into the next administration, which was Obama's administration, he took the Patriot Act and put it on steroids when he passed the NDAA Act. When the NDAA Act was passed, it was no longer spying on foreign terrorists and foreign activity. It was given the authority to spy on Americans, the American people. And in that Patriot Act, I believe it's it's Amendment 114, I believe. I think it's Amendment 114. In that amendment, it allowed and made it legal for the news media to use propaganda to support and to further promote government's tyranny. Amendment 114. Check it out. NDAA Act. Signed 2012 by President Obama. So now we are in 2021. So let's just backtrack. After 9/11, we had the Patriot Act. We had a war on terror. A war on terror. Foreign terrorists. Fast forward 8 years, the NDAA Act. We went from having terrorists, we changed the word to insurgents. Insurgents. The insurgents. Because political correctness decided that using the word terrorist or Muslim terrorists, it's not fair. It's Islamophobic and stuff like that. And people fell for it, and they fell for it, and they really, really fell for it. And so it became insurgents. We no longer used the words war on terror, but we were fighting insurgents. We knew who the enemy was prior to that. Taliban, stuff like that. So once we changed the word to insurgents, fast forward 12 years later, 2021, after the Trump administration and everything else, it's no longer insurgents. It's no longer Islamic radical terrorists. They're using words of militia. The militia. That's what they're using. And they're saying right-wing radical militia as domestic terrorists. When you watch the news, you hear them sit there, they bombed Syria because there was Iranian militia, Syrian militia. It's brainwashing. Militia is not a bad word. And the only people who think that militia is a bad word are tyrants. Tyrants believe that militia is a bad word. And what I mean by that, pardon me for 1 second, I'm a little dry. They use the word militia. Meanwhile, here in America, in our Second Amendment, militia, being a militia member, because we're all militia, we're all militia. Every individual is a militiaman, and that's why they get and they're weaponizing that word militia and they're brainwashing everybody else when they start talking about other countries' militiamen, whatever they're doing. So that way, here in America, the white supremacist militiamen, the radical right wing, or the radical black militia, the radical, it's brainwashing, and people are falling for it. The militia is a constitutional constitutional protected identity. It's the militia. The militia is the people who make sure to secure the safety of the states. And they're weaponizing it against us. Doesn't matter if you're like personally me. Now they're coming after our guns. They're most definitely coming after our guns. Like for me, do I agree with Islam? No, not at all. But if you're an American citizen and you're Muslim and you want to form a militia, even though my religion and your religion don't coincide, but you believe in American values, you believe in a right to keep and bear arms, to keep your firearms, I support you. I do. But you're right. You're an American citizen. That's your right to protect yourself, your state, your cause, or whatever, as long as you aren't using it to fight other Americans. Then now they're calling, people are afraid of black people having guns. The Black Panthers, the evil Black Panthers, stop it. These are American citizens. Just because we don't believe in their philosophies, we don't believe in, I don't think I didn't think the Black Panthers were domestic terrorists back in the 60s. I really don't. They got radicalized once they killed off the founding fathers of the Black Panthers, when they got infiltrated by these Marxists, these Marxist freaking imbeciles. But people are afraid of, you see it all over. There's black militias showing up, walking in D.C., walking in other capitals, and people are afraid of it. How can you be afraid of that? You should be proud of that. You should encourage that. Because it's we the people. If there's any common ground that we can have all our differences between religion or sexes or whatever, but our common thing is we're Americans and we're free people to choose. And what's going to happen is this government, this tyrannical government, this police state, who are weaponizing our military. Yes, they're weaponizing our military. And they're using them to label people who are pro-Second Amendment, pro-Constitution, they're label, pro-religion, white power, black power, brown power, whatever it is. They're using it to label all of us as domestic terrorists because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous what's going on. And everybody's just falling for it, and they're just falling for it. So that's why I'm sitting there saying, is generation our only hope? I believe so. Because we're the latchkey generation, but it's our children. It's our children that are going to take reign of the country in about 20 years. I mean, you got a couple of them in there like AOC, and these other like liberal buffoons. They snuck themselves in because they had such a large donor base with these the original cultural revolutionaries. And the reason I'm saying that we're the only hope is because it's our children. We gotta get involved with their schools. We all know the school systems are just run by a bunch of Marxist, communist, anti-American hating heathens. Not the teachers, not all teachers. Majority of them, yes, but not all teachers. It's the public unions, the public teacher unions. They set the curriculum. And the teachers just like our cops. That's their job. They got to follow a certain protocol or a certain curriculum. We have fabulous teachers out there, and we have some horrible teachers too. I mean, I witnessed the horrible teachers because, like I said, I'm a Generation Xer, so I had these full-blown cultural revolutionaries, in my elementary, junior high, and senior high school, and I used to butt heads with them all the time. They knew it, But so I'm not knocking you teachers out there. God bless you. You guys are doing a great job. For the most, I believe, for the most part, you guys are doing a fantastic job. But it's your union reps that are destroying the educational department. Same as the public unions for our police officers. Yes, I get on the police officers a lot. I do. I'm not going to deny it. Because I'm not, but first let me say I'm not anti-cop. I'm not anti-government. I'm just anti-corruption. These tyrants, these tyrant governors, these tyrant legislators, they're handcuffing these cops. These police unions are protecting the tyranny. And just like me, anybody else, we got to do our job. I got protocols. I'm a construction worker in New York City. I got to follow regulations and rules and regulations, OSHA, this and that. But I choose to do that, just like everybody else chooses to do it. But our law enforcement is the buffer that can prevent a civil or revolutionary war. And unfortunately, when I was growing up, the police officer, the law enforcement, they were real peace officers. We knew them, they knew us, they knew our families, and we had freedom. We actually had real freedom. We could ride dirt bikes, have a 22 strapped to our back, riding up, cop pulls you over. You know what they were worried about? They weren't worried about BB guns or 22 strapped to our backs on a dirt bike. They were more mad that we're riding on the road as opposed to like walking our dirt bikes. That's what it was. Today, you have a BB gun, you're going to jail. Or worse, you can get shot. They're handcuffing our police. And the newer cops is what scares me. Some of the old ones, they're just arrogant pricks anyway. So, it's just what it is. You're gonna have an arrogant prick in any generation. I mean, it's just what it is. But for the most part, they're good guys. I'm always rough on them, believe you me. I'm rough on them. I call them out, and I'm not doing it to sound like I'm anti-cop or anything like that. I'm just doing it to try to wake them up. It's like, you could talk and debate and have debates back and forth, but it never goes anywhere. The only way any conversation goes anywhere when you give a spark. You call them tyrants. You call them the Gestapo. You call them modern day Roman foot soldiers. Stuff like that. Then it gets everybody's attention. I'm just trying to make them think like, yo, you can't be doing stuff like this. But these baby boom Marxist, Maoist revolutionaries, they infiltrated our courts. They're writing laws because it's a long plan. It's been a long blueprint for a long time in the coming, where they weaponized our police. They weaponized the division, where people no longer trust the police, where the police don't trust the people. They use words, so suspicious. You're sitting at a park bench reading a book. Out of nowhere, they're being nosy. Oh, you have any ID? Or, stuff like that. It's like, I'm sitting on the bench. Why? Did I commit a crime? Did I do something wrong? No, we just want to identify your suspicious behavior. They weaponized our police force. And they did, and with, what I think his name is Lord Action. He once said years ago, power corrupts. But absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's a true statement. You can't just give these people, anybody, that much authority. And unfortunately, our law enforcement has been brainwashed too. Like they really think they're fighting a good cause. Like, yeah, we're fighting the terrorism. Yeah, 9/11. No. So they think that they think we're terrorists. They think they're citizens, they're neighbors, our neighbors. Like, oh, you have a Trump sign. Oh, you're a terrorist. Oh, you're bald-headed. You're a terrorist. You're a white supremacist. Like, and they're falling for it. And they're using excuses of like, it's my job. I'm doing my job. I'm just following orders. The courts allow them to do it. and they're giving him more and more power, and they're giving him more and more responsibilities. No, you're a law enforcer. You're not a babysitter. You're not a feelings officer. And I feel bad for them, actually. I mean, I really do. Even though I ride them hard, I do ride them hard. Trust me, I ride them hard. It's only for shock value more than anything else. And I do ride them hard. And so I don't know. I'm getting off course here. I'm just saying, the Generation X, we got to stand up, guys. Come on, stand up. We had smoking lounges. You got bullied. You punched a bully in the face. Bully didn't bother you no more. You didn't get arrested. You didn't get in trouble. You didn't have to see psychiatrists. We knew what bathrooms to use. When I was in school, I go into a woman's bathroom. I got a week's out of school suspension. What do you mean? Like, today, men can use women's bathrooms in high school? That's disgusting. That's just sickening. This is this liberal logic, this liberalism. Liberal logic. To me, liberalism is logic's retarded cousin. And you know how I think about liberals. I think quoting the great Dr. Michael Savage, liberalism is a mental disorder. But then I'll add on my little take on liberalism. I think liberalism is a cancer, is a disease. It's a cancer-like disease that's plaguing America and Americans morally, spiritually, and economically. And they're destroying us from within through all this buffoonery. So I'm going to reach out to my Generation Xers out there. We got to stand up. Some of our children now are in our 20s. It's going to be a little tough. But, if we start, some of us have younger children, we really got to get involved. We got to, you're sending your kids out to these indoctrination centers called universities and stuff like that. You can't have a conservative voice. You can't have a libertarian voice on college campuses. You can't. It's mind-boggling to me. So we really got to take this country back. And we're going to be the ones that are going to be taking over the Senate and the Congress and the presidency. The next president of the United States is going to probably be a Generation Xer. And like I said, we're 50-50. Baby boomers were one-third. Millennials are probably 60-40, 70-30. And it really sucks. I feel so bad for the millennials because they're not all bad. It's the ones, look what they're putting on TV. Look at the music. It's garbage. There's no they don't even have actors. Look at the entertainment. You're remaking movies from the 70s and the 80s, but you're adding gay scenes. I grew up to The Outsiders. We had The Outsiders. I can imagine if they made a remake of The Outsiders, it would be like Ponyboy Curtis is having a love affair with soda pop. No, that's his brother. That's incest. Well, that's acceptable. Incest today. Why not? That's the way the world's going. But it's just crazy. We're canceling Mr. Potato Head, Dr. Seuss. It's just really, really bad. And we're really going down a downward spiral. So I've been going at this about 40 minutes. I usually go, this is a lot longer than my usual videos. So I just want to just break it down to where we really, really, really are, to give you an example of how outdated and how long these cultural revolutionaries have been in control. Joe the Tyrant Biden is president of the United States. And when Joe the Tyrant first got elected to public office, when he was a freshman going into public office, I was entering kindergarten. When Jezebel, Nancy Pelosi, first got into office, I was entering 10th grade. when people like Chuck E. Schumer, Maxine Waters, when they took public office, I was entering my junior year in high school. When Joe Biden first ran for president of the United States, I was a junior in high school. A junior. That's 33 years ago. A junior in high school. So on and so on. And I remember being a kid, like listening to these idiots on TV. But we actually had real journalists then. We actually had like real sit down round tables. You know what I mean? And I always go after the liberals, but these liberals today, I mean, they're just far left radical lunatics. And and people confuse the term liberalism, like it's the progressive liberals. Those are the leftists. Those are the Marxists. And they hijacked it back in 1913. I'm not going to get into that. Classic liberalism is a good thing. Classic liberalism actually is conservatism and libertarianism. And these Fabian socialists, these Leninists back in the day under the Woodrow Wilson doctrine, they stole it and became progressive liberals. And it's, fast forward 100 and something years, here we are. Bunch of nonsense. We're bankrupt. They're printing money. They're printing money like we're playing Monopoly. You ever play the game Monopoly? Read the rules of Monopoly. When you run out of money, what do? The rules tell you, take a piece of paper or a napkin or whatever and print it on there and just keep adding it to the game. It loses its value. We're wasting money on nothing but buffoonery. So these liberals, these baby boom liberals, I remember being a kid in the 80s, a teenager in the 80s. I remember seeing these idiots fighting the same cause 35 years ago. They're still on TV fighting the same stuff. It's the same exact thing. It's just totally mind-boggling. And I don't know if I'm making any sense to anybody. I don't know. It's just been eating at me. I just figured I'd put it together and see what happens. But bottom line is, us Generation Xers, we got to rise up. We got to stand up and say enough's enough. These baby boomers, just push them into their HOAs and their senior citizen homes. You're done. You ruined our country. You ruined our country in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. With your selfish, heathenous ways. You spit on your fellow generation men that went to war, called them baby killers, spit on them, didn't want nothing to do with them. You guys went to Canada, Russia, China, not Russia, went to China. Like, you're pathetic. You're pathetic. Thanks for the good rock and roll. Thanks for the good drugs, I guess, you know what I mean? You guys did some good things, but you really didn't. You just, you get credit for a lot of stuff. But we really got to wake up, guys. We got to fight back. If we don't fight back, this country's done. We only have a few more years left of this. We also got to admit that, Kamala Harris is the president. She's the president of the United States. Joe Biden's a bumbling buffoon, and it's sad. At first it used to be comical to me, and I was like happy about it. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is somebody's grandfather. You're parading him out there like he's like a Three Stooges. It's like a comedy show. Like I see Joe Biden walking out, tripping downstairs, tripping upstairs. To me, I hear the Benny Hill theme song. You know what I mean? The Benny Hill song. It's really bad. It's horrible. But I don't know. That's just me. I decided to have a rant. It's really been bothering me. Joe Biden sitting there, he said it today. Kamala Harris speaks for me. That's because you can't speak, dude. You can't speak. 2 days ago, Kamala Harris is like laughing, about the border crisis. And now she's in charge of it. Kamala Harris is going to have a sit down with rapist Bill Clinton to talk about women and women's issues. Are you kidding me? Bill Clinton's a spokesperson for President Kamala Harris to talk about women issues and empowerment of women? A rapist. You're a known rapist and a known pedophile. I don't know. Just getting, and so on and so on. Just getting really aggravated. I mean, I can go on for hours, but I don't like to have long shows unless I had a guest on. I keep getting people that want to come on and have a nice little debate about a lot of things, economics, conspiracies, flat earth, whatever it is. But they never show up for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's me. They're all for it behind the scenes. Yeah. But they just, when it comes time to do a live show, they always back out. But I don't know. It's just my little rant. I'm going to end it. I'm going to end it. So I don't know. Hopefully, it's informative. It's just my opinion. One man, one opinion. And we really got to stand up, Generation X. We got to stand up and take our country back. We can't let these little Z's and millennials. These are we just can't let them just overtake this country with this Maoist ideology. We just can't do it. These are we can't do it. So anyway, I guess I'm going to say goodnight. I'm going to say goodnight. I don't know how this little videos, the reception this little videos going to get. It's a little long, but it is what it is. I just had to make a rant. I had a rant on something. I'm just so disappointed in this country. It's embarrassing. It's almost embarrassing. The fact that I believe and trust Vladimir Putin and Kim from North Korea more than I trust them and believe them more than I do believe the Democratic Party. The Russians and the North Koreans during the Cold War were like our natural enemy. The liberals and the liberal Democrats and the conservative Republicans, we were always battling back and forth. We always battled, on ideologies and moral issues and economic issues. But we had a common enemy, communism. We knew who the enemy was. And we always agreed on it. Like we knew Rocky Balboa. We cheered for Rocky Balboa, Apollo Creed. And, Drago was the enemy. We knew it. Stuff. I mean, it's something so simple as Rocky Balboa. Rocky. Like, now it's like we're praising communism. We're demonizing capitalism. It's a backward society. And I just can no longer live it. But now they're they're going to label me as a domestic terrorist. Why? Because I believe in God, family, and country in that order. I believe in holding my representatives accountable for their treacherous treason and their tyrannical laws. Our compromised judges who are you're usurping power and you're legislating off the bench just because our parents or that generation, they allowed you to do it. And you created a little network amongst yourselves. It's baloney. So I guess let me end the show. Guys, I don't know how you're going to take this. It's just, I had a rant. There's so much on my mind. And it's easier when you're doing with another person because you have feedback. You can feed off each other. So it is what it is. So I hope you guys all have a good night. I'll talk to you soon. I'm going to have a video tomorrow. I have a couple things I want to talk about. This was just a rant. It was on my mind. I'm sitting home doing nothing. So I'm bored. I know. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. Please subscribe, hit like, try to help me get my message out. If you enjoyed the show, I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody's support. So I'll say good night. God bless. God bless you. God bless America. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.